Today I'm going to be talking about why $10,000 a month is an arbitrary number that most people are shooting for, but doesn't make any sense, and why you should set your own goals and not follow those that everybody else sets. My name's Zach. I've been a software developer for the last 12 years. I've also been running a marketing agency named Braxter for the last 7, in which we've been able to generate over $13 million in revenue for our clients. So I've been there before where I had that as a goal. I don't know where everybody else is getting this as a goal, honestly. If I have to think about it, I suppose why people just seem to be drawn to the number 10,000, it must be something to do with like the average income in the US and then maybe doubling that, because the average income would be $50,000 to $60,000 a year. And so if we just think of around double, then it seems like something based on your current reality. Oh, well, I have this much money. If only I could have twice the amount of money. I would have so many options, so much flexibility. I would be so much happier. Well, as we know from psychological studies, happiness increases from salary raises, stops at around $75,000 a year. But if we then add in the inflation of the last 5 years, maybe it's $100,000 a year, who knows? But people had this $10,000 a month goal even before the last few years of inflation. So where do they get this number from? And then why does it stick around? Because if they've had that as their goal for such a long time, then maybe that's why they still talk about it now. Maybe it started out as something that was actually based off of a number, like double my income, that's my goal. Because things are hard on my current income, if I could just double it, then everything will be an option. But the number still sticks around. I think that's probably related to social media and people just sharing the number with each other. So then everybody makes that their goal because it's that guy's goal and he's going for it. So yeah, I want to do that too. But if we think about just goal setting normally, kind of like the 4-minute mile thing, and maybe you know where I'm going with this, it's kind of like once you see people break the limit that you thought was the limit, then you realize maybe I can do that too. And I feel like there's a little bit of that in this. Like people are just so busy with chasing like the $10,000 a month number, they only think of ideas that would get them to $10,000 a month. Where maybe this particular person, if they didn't even have the idea of $10,000 a month, they just did something that they want to do and they want to do it the best. The reality is that idea, if they just execute it really well, it's probably going to take them far beyond $10,000 a month. $10,000 a month is actually not that much money. And for somebody who's not making $10,000 a month, yeah, I know that must sound ridiculous. But when I say it's not that much money, I mean in the scope of the world. Like if you just make an app and you sell subscriptions for $1 a month and you sell it to 10,000 people, that's not really that many people. The majority of the people listening are living in towns way larger than 10,000 people. And if we think of how many people there are in the world, it just becomes kind of ludicrous that you're telling me you couldn't figure out a way to make something useful to 10,000 people in a world of 7-8 billion, whatever the number is at the moment. If you think about it more from that lens, then it just makes sense, right? Like surely you'd be able to do something that at least you could charge $10 to 10,000 people for. And that's even in the SaaS context, right? But that's usually the types of people that are shooting for this, or online businesses, right? I don't think that this number goal is useful for so many people to pursue. I think that if it's your personal goal and you have a specific reason why you chose it, then it makes sense. But if you pick that number because that's the number that you see people throwing around on YouTube or the people on Twitter talking about, I think it's actually holding you back. I think you should just pick your own goal and it should be related to something that you believe you could achieve. And I think it probably shouldn't be that far. Like if you are currently at 0, then you should probably just pick, how can I get my first customer? And then once you get your first customer, then pick, how could I get my next 10 customers? And then 10 and 100, and just keep setting your goal based on where you are. And that's going to change your idea set to generate that much larger, exponentially greater number. Because in reality, if you just think, oh, I got this first person to sign up for my SaaS project. Well, now you've done it, just do it 10 more times. And yes, you won't be able to get 10,000 users the same way you got one. unless you're like really, really hardworking. But you'll figure out a way to be more efficient as you go on. But this is kind of like the natural progression. I love listening to the YC videos on YouTube, and they were talking about how, I believe, the Stripe founders, one of the most scalable, largest businesses in the world now, Unicorn, when they got started, they were setting people up manually. Now, I could be misremembering exactly what they did, but they were working one-on-one manually with each client. And I just think that that's so hilarious. Like, probably most people don't think that such a scalable business, such a digitized business, why would they be setting up their first customers manually? Well, there's many reasons. First, just to start getting some revenue in, and then second, think of all that one-on-one time with your ideal customer and all the learnings that you'd get from that. So if we're just instantly thinking about $10,000 a month plans, it kind of cuts us out from the first part, jumps us straight to the middle plan, but we're not even ready for the middle plan. We have no resources for level 1. We're skipping straight to level 10, but we're also not even thinking of level 100, which is the long-term game. We should just be working on the levels up, right? We should be grinding to build up our experience points for level 1 and then level 2 and so on. We don't skip to level 10. Honestly, I just also think it's a kind of lazy, It's just lazy thinking. You're not thinking for yourself, which was kind of the whole part. It was the whole reason why you would start being an entrepreneur, is you wanted to do something for yourself, your own way, figure it out how to do it by yourself. And then what do? You pick somebody else's monetary goal for some reason. Even though, like, why does it need to be $10,000 a month? You could live in Bali or Thailand on $3,000 a month and do amazingly. And you don't need to go there and just build it up and then go back to your home country. You could just go there and just stay there. And it's really nice. People retire in places like that. So you could live there long term. It'd be fine. So you don't have to make like $10,000 a month. There's no reason for that specific number. I've made less than that. I've made more than that. Never did I care about specifically $10,000 a month. So you don't really want to have like this tether point. You don't want to lock yourself down to somebody else's arbitrary number. And then even once you do get to that number, it's not even satisfying. Like, you don't really even notice, because once you're busy enough where you exactly reach your goal, you're already like, well, what's the next one? I just got to move on to the next one. It doesn't feel as good as I thought it would. Like, I remember the first time I got a big one-time payment from a client. That was probably the biggest monetary wow I've had in a long time. I think it was like $8,000. It was $8,160. I remember that. And I saved the screenshot because it was a PayPal payment. I took a screenshot and I just kept it in my phone. And I was like, wow, I did it. I never thought I'd get a payment just from a client, not from a job or anything, just directly to me like that. That was crazy. And then later on, even when I would be generating like hundreds of thousands of dollars a month for clients, that was not as exciting as just that first payment. But that was because I think I wanted to receive like more than $5,000 in a payment from a client. I think it was something like that. Like, I don't know why $5,000, but it was just like what I wanted. I didn't even say that was my goal. I just wanted to see it in a one-time payment. And yeah, it was just like, oh wow, this is really possible. And it wasn't even that hard to do it. And the client was happy with it, So we were both happy. But yeah, I think it's just so much more satisfying when you set your own goals as opposed to just following what everybody else says should be the goal. And if it makes sense relative to your financial goals personally. Like, a few months ago, I was thinking about, well, what are even my financial goals? Like, how much money do I want? Do I even have a financial goal? What's the point of that? And so I just came to the conclusion that it would make most sense to set a goal based on what I would like my lifestyle to be like. There are things that I do want to have a nice lifestyle for, and then there are things that I just don't care about. Like, I used to want a Tesla, and then now I realized I like much better to just not have to drive around that much. Because if I get that nice of a car, why am I spending so much time in the car in the first place? And so that made me really rethink that. I had been planning on getting a Tesla for years, and then I decided not to because I moved to a place where I don't need to drive very much. And I like it much better. I wouldn't trade it. So now I just have a very simple car, and this is way better than spending, $1,000 a month or whatever I was going to spend on having that nice of a car. But, so I projected what my lifestyle would cost into the future, and then I worked backwards, and then I came up with a number, And I was thinking that maybe if any of you are interested in how I came to the number, like how exactly I broke it down, then maybe I could make that a video, because I found it very motivating once I could set my own goal based off of how I want my life to be in the long term. And, factoring in savings, where I'd live, whether I'd fly at this class or this or that class. And it just made so much more sense to me, and it made it really, really motivating and exciting. Whereas usually I don't get excited about financial goals because I live very cheaply. I wear like the same 7 shirts every day. And so, like even if I made another $100,000, it's like, what am I going to use it for exactly? I don't really have a need for it specifically. Yeah, I guess the conclusion is just think for yourself and don't let other people set your goals, because they might actually be limiting you. You're thinking that you're setting a high goal because the number sounds big at the time, but maybe that's not even your true potential. Maybe you would have come up with something much bigger than that if you had been left to your own thoughts. Not all good information is good information, including me. I could be wrong, so maybe don't even listen to me. But anyways, that's all from my ranting today. I've been on Twitter too much, as you can see, but thank you for watching. I hope that helps. Bye.